let the sun reach home. Ask myself over again, what am I doing wrong to make you stay out all night and not think to call? What does she have over me to make it not think to call?
Pushing them toward a white SUV. Then, for a second time, the agent pushes the person with the orange backpack. That person falls to the ground near the white SUV. Pretti tries to put himself between the DHS agent and the two people. Footage shows the same agent using pepper spray in the direction of Pretti's face. Pretti is holding his phone in one hand, and he holds his other hand up to shield himself from the pepper spray. 23 seconds before the shooting, Pretti appears to be trying to help the person with the orange backpack stand back up as the agent continues to pepper spray the group. That's when several agents grab Pretti, who is still holding his phone. Additional agents approach and try to pin him to the ground. 11 seconds before the shooting, Pretti is surrounded by a group of 7 agents, some of whom have wrestled him to the ground. One of the agents, wearing a gray coat, gets closer to Pretti. The agent's hands are empty as he reaches for Pretti, while the other agents hold Pretti down on his knees. At the same time, another agent strikes Pretti repeatedly with a pepper spray canister. 1 second before the shooting, an 8th agent joins the group. The agent in the gray coat appears to pull a gun from near Pretti's right hip. The agent then begins to move away from the skirmish. At the same time, another agent unholsters his firearm and points it at Pretti's back. The agent in the gray coat, who appeared to remove the weapon, moves away from the scene. The Times reports that it matches the profile of a gun that DHS says belonged to Pretti. Then, while Pretti is on his knees and restrained, the agent standing directly above him appears to fire one shot at Pretti at close range. He immediately fires 3 additional shots. Several agents then move away from Pretti, who has collapsed. Another agent, the same one who shoved the civilians into the street and pepper sprayed Pretti, unholsters his gun and fires at Pretti. The first agent also fires additional shots. Together, they fire 6 more shots at Pretti while he lies motionless on the ground. At least 10 shots appear to have been fired within 5 seconds. By the moment of the 10th shot, the agent who moved away with the weapon has crossed the street.
You said you love me, no one above me, and I was all you had. And all my heart is beating for you, I can't stop crying. I don't know how I allow you to treat me this way, and still I stay. See, my days are cold without you, but I'm hurting while I'm with you. And though my heart can't take no more, I keep on running back to you. See, my days are cold without you. So many tears after all these years. See, my days are cold without you. My days, yeah. And though my heart can't take no more, I keep on running back to you. See, my days are cold without you. Without you, I'm hurting while I'm with you. Without you, and though my heart can't take no more, I keep on running back to you. I trust in you, I trust in you. So sad, what love will make you do. the strength to lead. You always tell me that you need me, and I'm weak cause I believe you, and I'm mad because I love you. So I stop and think that maybe you could learn to appreciate me. Then it all remains the same, that you ain't never gonna change, never gonna change, never gonna change. My days are cold, baby, and though my heart can't take no more, I keep on running back to you. See, my days are cold without you. I'm hurting while I'm with you, and though my heart can't take no more, I keep on running back to you. Baby, why you hurt me? Leave me and desert me. Why I gave you all my heart and all you did was tear it up. Looking out my window, knowing that I should go. Even when I pack my bags, see something always holds me back.
Overnight unrest and anger in Minneapolis after federal agents shot and killed another person. Graphic video from the scene obtained by Dropsite News shows a man in a struggle with agents, resisting being shoved to the ground and hit. It appears his gun is removed by one of the agents. Another agent opens fire, then two more open fire, shooting him in the back as he lies on the ground.
I just saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death. How many more residents?
Minneapolis police have now identified that man as 37-year-old Alex Pretti, an American citizen and Minneapolis native who worked as an ICU nurse for the Department of Veterans Affairs. Pretti seen here reading the final salute for a fallen veteran.
Today we remember that freedom is not free. We have to work at it, nurture it, protect it, and even sacrifice for it.
Local authorities say Pretti was a lawful gun owner with a license to carry and no criminal record. Minnesota has an open carry gun law which requires a permit. Video shows Pretti intervened trying to help a woman the agents had surrounded. He appears to be holding a phone as he is pepper sprayed and wrestled to the ground, which he resists. The video does not appear to show him drawing the gun at any point. Now, Governor Tim Walz says the state will not be stonewalled by the Trump administration as they investigate the shooting.
Thank God we have video, because according to DHS, these 7 heroic guys took an onslaught of a battalion against them or something. It's nonsense, people. It is nonsense and it's lies.
According to an affidavit, a doctor witnessed the shooting from a nearby apartment and says that at first agents would not let him through to help before one agent eventually agreed to let him assess the victim. According to the affidavit, the doctor says he was confused as to why Pretti was lying on his side, which is not standard practice when a victim has been shot. The doctor added ICE agents appeared to be counting Pretti's bullet wounds. Border Patrol officials say the shooting happened while conducting a targeted operation for a person in the country illegally. They claim Pretti approached Border Patrol agents with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun seen here, along with 2 magazines, and say he violently resisted their attempts to disarm him.
We will not allow violence against our law enforcement officers.
Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem insists the agent fired defensive shots.
This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at this scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
So far, they've provided no evidence supporting those claims.
There's been demonstrators out here since this shooting first happened, sometimes thousands at a time. The fires are to stay warm in the sub-zero temperatures. We know there's been protests happening every day in Minneapolis since Renee Good was shot 2.5 weeks ago.
The Minneapolis community coming together in a candlelight vigil overnight. Neighbors, friends, and family gathered outside Pretti's home. His neighbor speaking to ABC News, remembering the 37-year-old.
He was very well thought of. It's difficult to square that impression that everybody on this block had, and with this notion that he was somehow on some sort of suicide mission to inflict damage on ICE.
And his father telling the Associated Press his beloved son cared about people deeply and was very upset with what was happening in Minneapolis, adding he had discussed the protest with his son recently.
We had this discussion with him 2 weeks ago or so, that go ahead and protest, but do not engage. And he said he knows that. He knew that.
Y'all know the voice, y'all know the sound, y'all know who it is. James Bubba Williams, DJ Xlcusive is in the building, y'all. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. It's about to go down. Keep your head up out there, people. This shit is about to get real. Ain't no about to. It's already been real. You see it.
Some say the blacker the better, the sweeter the juice. I say the darker the flesh, then the deeper the roots. I give a holler to my sisters on welfare. Tupac kids, if don't nobody else care. And I know they like to beat you down a lot. And when you come around the block, brothers clown a lot. But please don't cry, dry your eyes, never let up. Forgive, but don't forget, girl, keep your head up.
Good morning, y'all. Good to see everybody this morning, man. Make sure that you stay on this family. Make sure that you stay tuned.
And I ain't trying to gas you up, I just roll them how I see. You know what makes me unhappy? That when brothers make babies and leave a young mother to be a cat. And since we all came from a woman, got our name from a woman, and I came from a woman. I wonder why we take from our women, why we rape our women, do we hate our women? I think it's time to kill for our women, time to heal our women, be real to our women. And if we don't, we'll have a race of babies that will hate the ladies that make the babies. And since a man can't make one, he has no right to tell a woman when and where to create.
Get a 9. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning, Shay. Good to see you. Shout out to everybody that is joining us this morning, y'all. Good to see everybody, y'all. Good morning.
Hey yo, I remember Marvin Gaye used to sing to me. He had me feeling like black was the thing to be. And suddenly the ghetto didn't seem so tough. And though we had it rough, we always had enough. I huffed and puffed about my curfew and broke the rules. Ran with the local crew and had a smoke or two. I realized mama really paid the price. She nearly gave her life to raise me right. And all I had to give her was my pipe dream of how I rock the mic and make it to the right screen. I'm trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. It's hard to be legit and still pay your rent. And in the end, it seems I'm heading for the pen. I try to find my friends, but they're blowing in the wind. Last night, my buddy lost his whole family. It's gonna take the man in me to conquer this insanity. It seems the rain will never let up. I try to keep my head up and still keep from getting wetter. You know it's funny when it rains, it pours. They got money for wars, but can't feed the poor. Said it ain't no hope for the youth, and the truth is it ain't no hope for the future. And then they wonder why we crazy. I blame my mother for turning my brother into a crack baby. We ain't meant to survive cause it's a setup, and even though you're fed up, you gotta be your head up. To all the ladies having babies on their own, I know it's kinda rough and you're feeling all alone. Daddy's long gone and he left you by your lonesome. Thank the Lord for my kids, even if nobody else want them. Cause I think we can make it, in fact I'm sure. And if you fall, stand tall and come back for more. Cause ain't nothing worse than when your son wants to know why his daddy don't love him no more. You can't complain you was dealt this hell of a hand without a man feeling helpless. Because there's too many things for you to deal with. Dying inside, but outside you're looking fearless. While the tears is rolling down your cheek, you're steady hoping things don't all fall this week. Cause if it did, you couldn't take it. And don't blame me, I was given this world, I didn't make it. And now my son's getting older and older and cold from having the world on his shoulders. While the rich kids are driving Benz, I'm still trying to hold on to surviving friends. And it's crazy, it seems they'll never let up, but please, you got to keep your head up.
Good morning, good morning, good morning again, everybody. Keep your head up, keep your head up, keep your head up is the message for today. I know it's a struggle out here in these streets, and we've all been seeing what's going on. For you gotta be a fool to miss the murders that have been going on. So please pay attention, man. Keep your head up. Let's stay strong. Let's fight the good fight. That's all we're gonna be able to do, man. We see these terrorists out here in the streets. And the terrorists being ICE. Let's call a thing a thing. Everybody else talking about domestic terrorism, calling this man a domestic terrorist. When we all saw the video, they are lying in our faces, y'all. When the video is all over the internet and everywhere, and they lying to our face. I just want to be free, man. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. We got more coming up next.
Tryna rain on the thunder. Tell a storm I'm new. I'm a walk, I'm a march on the regular. Painted white flags blue.
All right, y'all, we're going to go ahead and get this show started, man. So y'all stay tuned. It's about to go down here on the Benjamin Dixon Show channel, man. We got a full show for y'all today, so you want to stay tuned. Good morning, y'all.
Work that we're doing here is not going to stop when it comes to these type of discussions. It's going to be for us and by us here on this platform when the media is telling us to look the other way. Your support is what helps us move forward. Join patreon.com/like it or not. Help us grow.
Like It or Not starts now.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, DJ.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth.
And not care who doesn't like it. Just want to make sure I got my mic correct before we even.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it sounds like you on the house phone.
It did, and I was on the house phone, but now I am on the microphone. Okay, the mega phone. Okay, so yes. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. How are you guys doing this morning? I know it's been a very long time since we have gotten together, but the band is back together because there's so much to talk about. First of all, Happy New Year to a lot of our supporters who are just tuning in and haven't seen us in a long time. We know. But we're here now. Again, Happy New Year. There is so much to discuss. First and foremost, I definitely want to say hello to you guys. Hey, Ben. Hey, Bubba. Hey, Dr. Mac. How are you guys doing? I know there's a lot been going on and we'll get to it, but how are you guys doing first and foremost?
You know, Queen, all things given, of course, my spirits are dampened, but when I see my beautiful queen, there is my ray of sunshine.
Right, Dr. Mac.
Listen, thank you so much. Dr. Mac is too early. Return up the Mac. Turn up the Mac.
And let me say, brother DJ, I love you. I miss you. Happy New Year, man.
I love you too, brother. It's so good to see you, Dr. Mac. I know Mama is probably somewhere in the background screaming her butt off right now this morning. But it's good to see you, brother. I love you so much, man. It's good to see you, Doc.
Love you too, black man.
Absolutely good to see you, Ben. I know that we ain't got you in, in full caricature, but we do have the baby picture. So how are you doing, Ben?
I'm doing good in the background. It's where y'all need me. I'll keep the footage rolling. I'll be filling in for David. You all know David is the super producer extraordinaire. So you might not see or hear a lot of me today, but to be in the room with Rebecca Azor, DJ Xlcusive, and Dr. Carl Mack. And we should be joined momentarily by Georgia Fort, who is in Minneapolis and on the ground. Well, she was on the ground until the militarization got so high that she believed that it was safer for her to leave, because she said, and we'll let her speak for herself what she saw and what she experienced. But there's a lot going on, Rebecca. It's good to be here. How are you doing?
Oh, glad you asked. I'm hanging in there. I am good. I'm happy to be here. I am excited for this new year. Again, all things considered. I'm excited because we get to be at the forefront of this conversation, to attack misinformation, to be able to stand on the front lines as best as we can, to be able to be in connection with people like Georgia Fort who are on the ground, to be able to be in connection like Kevin Ortega, who is constantly doing round the clock coverage of this, for us to be able to mobilize when we feel like things are hot, for us to get on the phone and be able to just go in and see if we need to pull up somewhere if need be. I think that is right. If ever there was a time, what they say, what the Bible said, for such a time as this is the one. I think right now, we've been discussing for over 10 years about misinformation, and we've been discussing since Joe Biden, became president. Donald Trump soared up and down that, he was the real president. We saw people scale the walls at the Capitol. We were covering that wall-to-wall coverage only for them to tell us not to believe our eyes at that time, right? And we preached about what would happen now. We said what would happen. We even covered it every day. And today it is happening. We are at war stateside because Donald Trump wants whatever he wants, whether that's for him to make sure that he steals the election, whether that's to make sure that America stands on the grounds of, anti-immigrants, anti-Black folks, or whether that is to make sure that no kids are fed, at all, whether that's to continue to push out misinformation about immigrants stealing jobs from Americans, or stealing programs from Americans, or Black people not being good enough, or, stealing taking away our exhibits from museums and from state parks, so that people do not know our history, to erase us, to eradicate every single thing that is not white, that isn't a lie in this country. The same thing that this country is built off of, that's what they want to continue on, instead of the work that we've done, right? They don't want us to remember what they did to Black Americans' ancestors, but they want us to remember people scaling the walls and the one lady that died that day. They don't want us to remember what we saw on camera just the other day with Renee Good. They don't want us to remember what we saw with Alex Pretti. They don't even want to mention Kevin Porter Jr. out of California. Okay. They don't want us to know what they're doing to these immigrants over there in the holding cells, right? That they hold them in, where they're not leaving alive, right? Where they're unaliving them there. They do not want us to know that these unalivings aren't just what we're seeing on camera. They've been happening. And the talks of immunity, we've seen that conversation float around. And then by JD Vance, the vice president of the United States, immunity, not for us, immunity for ICE agents when they murder innocent people, right? But then he walks it back. We're going to go through all of those discussions, but this is what we're seeing here. And like I said, I am glad that we get to do this work so that we can go ahead and correct misinformation, and push out or figure out together what we can do. Because just like everybody else, I too, when I watch these things, feel helpless sometimes. Every time I feel like we've gotten somewhere, it's the feeling of helplessness that comes in, because what next? Because now it's like they're given so much power. They're not even messing with the police officers themselves, them being ICE. They're not even respecting police officers. So what next? So yeah. I know I said a lot.
No, Queen, let me chime in and say this. In the totality and in a much bigger picture, what we better understand is we are literally dealing with the most divisive president, certainly in our lifetime. But if you went back generations, and the only other president that I think was more divisive than Trump would have been Abraham Lincoln, unfortunately. And I say divisive because ultimately we went into civil war because of his election. But it was simply, but the difference between a Lincoln and a Trump is Lincoln's mere election caused this country to divide over the issue of slavery, and we went to civil war. In the case of Donald Trump, there has not been a more divisive president. And I'm going to exclude Lincoln. I just needed to mention him for that historical reference, but I'm going to exclude him. There has never been a more divisive president in the history of this country. Now, I don't want to stay subjective with it, so let me be objective. Under Trump, you've had the largest one-day protests in the history of this country. And if I'm not mistaken, That was the Women's March, where women came out in January of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Then you came back and you had the largest protest in the history of this country, which was George Floyd that started it in Minneapolis, May 26th, and went on for a period of time where you had anywhere from 15 to 26 million. And in the Women's March, I think you had somewhere like 3.5 to 4.5 million. And that was the largest at the time. And then you had the largest same day protest in the history of this country, the No Kings protest, which I think it got up to almost 7 million people that participated in that. So in addition to these protests, you also got this going on around the country. He just went to Davos, Switzerland. Outside of Davos, Switzerland, at the World Economic Forum, you got protesters holding up No King signs. You got them, Europe. You got folks in Europe with the iconic red MAGA hat on, except it says, "Make America Go Away." So when you look at the divisiveness of it, and I'm talking about not only the divisiveness that we've seen in America, the man has pissed on Canada, slapped the shit out of Mexico, told EU they don't give a damn about them. You know what he's doing to Russia. He's on his knees with Russia, mouth wide open for Putin. What has he done to the folks, to the Palestinians? There is not a group. Yeah. There's not a group. As a matter of fact, and let us not forget Greenland. Oh, Lord, let us not forget Greenland. Let us not forget Venezuela. Now, he goes to the World Economic Forum in Davos and starts this whole "we taking Greenland" kind of thing, like it or not, excuse the pun, the easy way or the hard way. Europe done bowed their back up to the point now that all around the world, you're beginning to watch other countries sell their U.S. treasuries. In effect, family, if enough of them do it, the debt that'll hit that'll hit America is going to be insane. As a matter of fact, China at any point could spank that ass with immunity, if you will. So you're watching countries like Denmark, you're watching countries in the EU, you're watching Japan, China sell off their U.S. treasuries because people are so put off with this fool. He is literally the most divisive president in the history of this country. And to your point, Queen, he says that administration says one thing, but does another. And it is incumbent upon us to remember our history. We need to remember who's the little white boy, Queen? Was it Rittenhouse?
Yeah, Kyle Rittenhouse, who came up to the protest with his guns.
But now I want us to just go back, family, and just slow down just a second. Think about what they said about Alex. Their justification is this man, in the words of Trump, it's not a good deal when you come to the protest with a gun, so things happen. Something to that effect. But now Rittenhouse, go ahead, Queen, goes to was it Kennesaw, Wisconsin?
Mm-hmm.
Gun in hand, AR in hand. And so with Pretti, they says he went there looking for a fight when the man never brandished his gun, never did anything. Whereas this white boy is walking down the street like I'm ready to instigate, and ultimately kills 2 people, shoots and wounds another person, and then they describe him as a hero. So to your point, Queen and DJ, I heard you earlier. Don't you dare believe your lying eyes. And if I had to go back in history, which I always do, this ain't the first time, not for Black folks, because again, the first time we ever saw this nonsense with law enforcement on video, not the first time we ever saw it, but the first time that I can remember, we captured it on video, Rodney King. And we sitting right there. We watching with our own lying eyes. And they came back and said, no, justifiable. And we had to burn this bitch down. That's what we had to do. We had to burn this bitch down. So I'm going to leave it right there.
Right.
But we have somebody to help who's on the ground right now, who making sure that we know what we're seeing. She's one of the best who are doing it, one of the ones who've been covering it for a very long time. And our girl Georgia Ford, we have her on the show. I know that she's in the house right now. Hey Georgia.
Georgia.
Hey,
Georgia.
good morning. Good morning.
Georgia, you know you on our mind, baby.
Absolutely.
I hope I'm in your prayers. I hope I'm
in prayers, baby, and in prayers.
Lord, we need it.
Absolutely. So first of all, we thank you for the work that you are doing out there. I know that you're putting your life on the line out there to actually cover these stories, and you live out there, so you've been out there from day one. A lot of the coverage has been wall to wall with you. I'm like, dang, she's out there. It's in the middle of the night. What's going on? We hear these, shots they ringing out. I hear yelling, and you are literally out there making sure that we get the truth, because they don't want us to believe our eyes, as Dr. Max said. But so what have you been seeing on the ground right now so far? How is this going for you? We have so many questions, but how are you, girl? What's going on?
I am beyond exhausted. It has been a 3-week nightmare, to be honest. When you think about the fatal shooting of Renee Good happening on January 7th, I was actually supposed to be leaning into my fellowship that I'm currently doing. I was walking out the door to start some of those activities and got a call that there had been a fatal shooting of a woman by an ICE agent. And so I immediately went there. And quite frankly, ever since that moment, I've been running nonstop. My team has been running nonstop. 1 week after Renee Good was fatally shot by an ICE agent, there was a Venezuelan man who was shot during a raid in North Minneapolis. He did survive. But then to fast forward and have a third shooting and the second fatal shooting within just 3 weeks in Minnesota, it is extremely intense. People are either paralyzed by their fear, or they're being propelled by their fear. And so we're seeing a lot of families keep their students home. A lot of schools are now offering virtual learning like we saw in the pandemic, because they're realizing some of these activities have spilled over into school grounds, right? Right after Renee Good was fatally shot, there was a huge violent incident outside of a high school during the let out. An educator was arrested. And although the person that they were trying to detain at the time did not go to the school, it definitely ended up spilling over onto school property. And so I think that was extremely alarming to educators and our local superintendents, who realized, what is our safety plan? How can we ensure that if we're asking students to come to school, that we can keep them safe?
Right.
And they don't really have a way to ensure the safety of anyone in Minnesota. We are seeing the ACLU here locally file a class action lawsuit because so many U.S. citizens have been wrongfully detained by ICE. We have seen the violation of due process for people who are not U.S. citizens. Hell, you can look at these investigations for the fatal shootings, where our local state investigators have been prohibited from even investigating or collecting evidence at the scenes. So much so that Renee Good, the fatal shooting of Renee Good, in my opinion, was almost like practice in terms of the attorney general and the Hennepin County attorney and local authorities asking themselves, like, well, what authority, what jurisdiction do we have to try a federal agent, right? And so they had to do a lot of studying, and they ended up putting up a public a URL, a website where they are urging the public to upload evidence. Like this is a precedent. We've never seen investigators urge the public to submit evidence through their website, right? But now it's that same strategy that's being deployed for the fatal shooting of Alex Pretti, the ICU nurse who worked at the VA's hospital. And in fact, now that they have this knowledge, they were able to deploy it more quickly. And so the Hennepin County attorney and the local BCA went to the scene. They were denied access to the scene after he was fatally shot. And so then they went to a judge. and they asked the judge to sign a search warrant. The judge signed the search warrant, which then should have given them jurisdiction to be able to access the scene to collect evidence. And the federal agents did not comply with this judicial order.
Wow.
And so we're just seeing an erosion of our constitutional rights, our civil rights. We're seeing that judicial orders are not being complied with. And I think that what is happening in Minnesota has to be a code red for America, or we are going to be in serious trouble.
Absolutely.
George, a quick question. When you say that they're asking everybody to upload all of this video footage, quote, in their investigation, why do you think they're doing that?
Well, I think that the Hennepin County Attorney's Office and the Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, who a lot of people know, who prosecuted he was the prosecutor for the Derek Chauvin trial, right? So these two individuals here, elected officials, they do have jurisdiction to investigate and arrest even a federal agent, right? But they can only do that if they're able to collect enough evidence to prove that there was a crime, that there was some type of violation of a statute of law in the state of Minnesota. And so if they don't have the cooperation of the FBI, right? If the FBI is the agency that's supposed to be leading this, and then normally they would work in tandem with our state investigators, the BCA, but they're prohibiting the BCA from having any access to the scene, then what is the next action of recourse? It's hire a private investigator, do the investigation yourself. And so they're asking for the public to submit evidence, from my understanding, so that they can start to compile their own case.
But Queen, George, I'm sorry, but the feds are not asking for folks to upload videos, are they?
This is
the state.
This is state and county officials. The Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, who many people know from the Derek Chauvin trial and the Kimberly Potter trial. And then the Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty, who is here, who represents on a county level. So they're using their state and their county authority and jurisdiction to try to launch an investigation in a case of their own.
Got it.
So basically, it's like ICE and their authority still supersedes, while they're in Minneapolis, it's superseding the state officials, the law over there. And like you said, this should be literally a huge red flag. People should be saying, if that can happen here in Minneapolis, it can happen anywhere. Yeah. But George, I have a question for you. Why Minneapolis? We know that with the George Floyd, we remember what happened in 2020, the Black Revolution happening. People were protesting. You were there as well. You got to cover that. But why is Minneapolis the target, especially for Donald Trump?
I think that is somewhat to be determined. I could throw out a few things as kind of speculation. We know that our governor ran as the vice president on the ticket with Kamala, right? We also know that this state primarily voted blue. We also know that George Floyd happened here, and Minnesota at that time became the epicenter of a global movement that in much regard is still very well alive today. We know that in Minnesota, Prince probably predicted it. He said that the revolution would start here. And so I think that there's a number of different factors. What to me in the last 48 hours has been the most revealing. Our governor has set his political ego aside, and he has begged and pleaded this administration to turn down the temperature in Minnesota. What I've heard from people who either agree with what's happening with ICE or who are just not in tune with what's happening, people are kind of saying, well, maybe the folks in Minnesota are overreacting. People in Minnesota are saying the people in this nation are underreacting. And here's why. I want to give you some context. Yeah. When you juxtaposition what's happening in Chicago, it's not just that people in Minnesota are responding different. That's not why this looks so different. Let me tell you why it looks different. Minnesota is a fraction of the population of Illinois. Illinois has more than 2 times the amount of population that we have, yet and still they had half the amount of agents. So we're half the size of Illinois, but we have double the amount of agents.
Wow.
Not just that, we have a fraction of the size of the population, so or of the population of immigrants. So if we have less immigrants here, if this was truly about immigration, why would we need more agents than what Illinois had? And the last point that I'll make in terms of contrasting, having something to compare this to just let people know how tremendous Operation Metro Surge in Minnesota is. The operation in Chicago and Illinois has been ongoing for maybe 4 months, right? They've arrested 1,500 people. The operation in Minnesota has only been going on for about a month, and they've already arrested 12,000 people.
Wow.
But now, Georgia, it could two, and I want to put 2 other items on the board, and I certainly love the way that you stated it, speculation. But could it also be that Minnesota is somewhat of a sanctuary state? And could it be because of, publicly stating this from the Somali Americans, how many of them voted for Trump? I want to say somewhere around 30,000. So could those also be factors that is why Minnesota?
Let me lay this out for you more in the form of a question. The thing I think people should be asking themselves: if this was about immigration, if it was about fraud, if it was about the Somali community, then why, when our governor asked for them to turn the temperature down, why did Pam Bondi write a letter asking for our voter rolls?
Yes.
That part.
So I'm not going to speculate, but as a journalist, my job is to ask the questions. I'm having a hard time connecting the dots here. What does our voter rolls have to do with immigration? Number one. Number two, this is not the first time that they asked for our voter rolls. They asked for our voter rolls before they came in, probably almost as, hey, if you guys want to avoid being the next LA, if you want to avoid being the next Chicago, give us your voter rolls. And our Secretary of State and our Attorney General said no. And so here we are. So is this what happens? So this is why I'm saying what's happening in Minnesota should be a code red for this country, because if they come and they ask for your state's voter rolls and your governor, your elected official says no, this is where I feel it's safe to speculate. I think it's safe to speculate that they will be launching an operation in your state next if you don't hand over your voter rolls. The other piece about the Somali fraud, right, is that when you think about the judicial process to address fraud, it's already been addressed. The people who are accused of fraud, the people who are found guilty of fraud have been sentenced and they're doing jail time. But why every single time that the folks who are trying to weaponize the fraud activity that's happened in the Somali community, why are they weaponizing that to defend U.S. citizens being brutally shot in the face? And why are they forgetting to add the context that the biggest fraudulent operation in the state of Minnesota was launched by a white woman named Amy Bach?
Right.
So,
George, I'll say the same. When you pose the question like that, I think the other thing is, if America is so concerned with immigrants and drug problems, all one has to do is look at the White House and ask, why is it that Trump now pardons this guy Hernandez, who was convicted of bringing 400 tons of cocaine, drugs into this country? So if you're so concerned about these things, why would you do that? And I think those are the same questions that you're talking about in regards to Minnesota. And for me, it's the same thing that one could say about a whole lot of things when you look at what has happened to us as a people, Black folks. I'm listening to some news reporting station where they had this sister on there, and she was a minority sister, representative from the state of Washington. And she made this statement: never in a million years could you have thought that these things ICE would be on American streets. And everything in me just went cold. Like, have you lost your mind? Don't you remember what happened in the 60s when the streets looked exactly like that?
That's
but
right.
They did not pay attention to what was happening to Black folks. And now here it comes circling around again. So Georgia, I just want to thank you so much. And I think on behalf of all of us for your extraordinary work, your extraordinary courage. And I know what courage is. Courage to me is when you're afraid, but you still go.
That's
and,
right.
In addition to all these other things, I think you've been tear gassed and all this other stuff. So thank you for just doing such an amazing and producing such an amazing body of work and bringing clarity to us. Thank you.
Amen.
I know, Ben, you're on right now. Were you going to ask her a question? I was going to go somewhere else with the conversation. But
well, before you take off with the other direction, and we might be on the same page, I don't know. But Georgia, tell us about your experience as a journalist.
Yeah.
Because as you look and you've covered everything, you have been and for what from Derek Chauvin to Black Lives Matter protests, to Floyd, obviously, and then with Renee Good, but then even before that, Philando Castile. Like, you've been a Minnesota stalwart, regional Emmy award-winning reporter there on the ground who is doing phenomenal work. And in spite of seeing and experiencing all of that, what has this been like from a First Amendment journalist perspective?
It's been a nightmare. We are seeing the journalists here being brutally attacked, but it's not new. Like Dr. Mack said, there's a long-standing history of a lot of the violations of our civil and our constitutional rights that have happened, that have set the stage for this moment. I think back to 2020, in the aftermath of George Floyd, there was a journalist, a reporter who lost an eye. There's permanent injuries sustained from going out, being on the front lines and covering this work. So yes, it is terrifying as a mother to go out and not just think about being brutalized, because I've also been shot with a rubber bullet when I was covering the protest after Dante Wright was killed, right? Wow. But then to think now about your losing your freedom, being detained for documenting what is happening as political retribution. It's hard to go out there and feel safe in no matter how big you have press written across your chest, no matter how big your camera is, no matter if you are an international recognizable anchor. We saw even in 2020, right? They arrested a reporter who was broadcasting live on CNN, and they arrested him, not his camera crew, but him as a brown man, right? That is the same thing that we're experiencing now, except for it's escalated. And in addition to that, we're not talking about going to state jail. We're not talking about going to a county jail. We're talking about federal charges. We're talking about going to federal detentions where they're saying that you're going to the same institution where they're saying they're keeping the worst of the worst. The people they're arresting are the worst of the worst. Well, if they arrest you, they're bringing you there too, And so as a journalist right now, I think that we are living in a society, right? Like in the context of what's happening globally.
Right.
What we saw happen in Palestine.
That's right. There you go.
Killing of 300 journalists.
There you go.
300 journalists
were
killed covering what was happening in Palestine. So if on a global stage,
that's right,
no one would intervene, one would say that this is this cannot happen. No one will enforce any type of international law to say that there will be a consequence for killing people who are trying to document what's happening. The tolerance that we have allowed globally has set the stage now for American journalists, whether they're independent or whether they work for commercial stations now, to be targeted. And so it's
Georgia, let me say it the way I want to. America has its head so far up Israel's ass via AIPAC and everything else. And now Trump is taking a page from Netanyahu to the point that they will, without impunity, murder journalists and then lay claim, your so-called patriots. You want to lay claim to patriotism in America and you violate freedom of press, man, get the fuck out of here with all that. That's America with its head up Apex ass and taking a page right from Israel. Because as you were talking, That's exactly what was coming to mind about the amount of journalists that have been killed there, and the world sits quiet about it. And now they're bringing it right here to these shores.
Absolutely. I think like when I seen the coverage, which is a big deal, when a lot of journalists, and activists went over to that church, how the media tried to spin it like they've been doing with the murders that they're doing, but how they tried to spin it immediately. The first thing that our producer David sent out, he's like, hey, that's Georgia Fort's mic. She's somewhere out there,
Rebecca,
within the church. We got to make sure she's good. We got to make sure she's okay, because the way that they're coming at the journalists, but immediately the way that they started to attack the journalists, to me, even when you presented it, because I've been following you closely, and you came the next day and you're like, they're so focused on us journalists, but they're not focused on the bigger story here. We came here to cover the story, to uncover. We're exposing that this pastor is the director for for ICE here, right? He's a field director for ICE here, and he ain't at the service because he's over there recruiting or organizing. And to know that the law, this administration, they immediately, like you said, wanted to make this a federal crime, and now there's no more free press, and we don't have the protections as journalists, and to criminalize and call the journalists, just like they're calling everybody else that they're murdering, domestic terrorists, to go ahead and label them domestic terrorists as well. The goal is to criminalize everyone that is against whatever they're doing right now, whether you're a journalist, a baby with a backpack, a protester, whatever. It is to criminalize you. So in watching how they handled that at the church, you were there. I know that you were even, they jailed or they, the two activists. And I know that you were there to cover that as well. What was that like from the time of covering to the time of them letting the activists go? Because they were the two that they held.
That's a great question. And until things develop further, there's not a lot that I can say about that right now.
Understood. Got you. Seeing that though, in seeing how they dealt with Don Lemon, what they want to do is divert the attention. And we've been seeing that. Like, let's make it about the journalists, not about what's happening at the church, not about what's happening with these people, not about, like, in the church, a pastor is leading, ain't there on Sunday, but the church thing to be saying that, hey, we're supposed to be Christians. We're supposed to say that, these are God's people. We're supposed to be making sure that everybody is protected. But knowing that even your church, your doctor, your mailman, your whoever could all be associated with this, with what's going on, could be on the other side of it. It just sucks that this is what it's become. The kids can't go to school.
And the thing that I've encouraged people to remember when they think about that specific situation that has happened here in Minnesota, and as we come off of the celebration of Martin Luther King's birthday, Dr. King, Reverend King,
that's right,
was arrested 29 times. John Lewis was arrested multiple times, including as recent as October 2013, when he was protesting immigration issues. Right? Rosa Parks was arrested. So many people who are at the core of a controversial change in their time, they were arrested. Why? Because their moral conviction, their spiritual conviction superseded whatever was set by law, right? And so we have to remember, we live in a country where slavery was legal. And so the people who are screaming to abolish slavery were actually breaking the law. They were criminals. But they had a moral conviction that what had been happening in America with slavery was morally or spiritually wrong. And so they didn't care that, based on the times, that their actions and their beliefs and their spiritual convictions were deemed illegal. And so they made a sacrifice. And so the other side of that, Rebecca, and what I think you were trying to touch on, that I'll say here, right, is, as a journalist, it is not our job to agree or disagree with what we are filming. It is our job to document. And so when you think about the horrific attack that Don Lemon has been at the center of, and it's because he is a household name. He's been at the center of this. all for what? Documenting what happened, telling both sides of the story. People have been outraged. That specific story has sparked so much debate in the religious community, in the First Amendment, right? The First Amendment covers the freedom to protest, the freedom to be a journalist, and the freedom to practice religion. So you're seeing this intersection, all these issues intersecting and colliding from this one thing, and people are having all these different feelings about it. But you know why you're able to feel that way? Because there were brave journalists who are there to document not one side, but both sides. And so if we want to be aware of what's happening in our world, whether we agree with it or we don't agree it, we do have to stand up and honor and protect the rights of the free press.
And that's the
go ahead, Queen.
But that's the whole reason why we have these stories. You know, you had people out there who were recording, and then you had journalists immediately follow through to be able to get you these stories, to be able to get you what's happening on the ground. I see just many other different journalists who have been out there who have had to call out that, like you were saying, that they're depressed, but that does nothing, because you too can get shot with tear gas. You too can get arrested. You too can be unalived by ICE. It doesn't matter. And because these conversations are only happening because we have journalists out there who are willing to cover it, willing to risk their lives, but get you the story as is. We need to be able to see it. And that's how we're developing these conversations. But what's interesting is this administration is trying to do essentially the same thing. Oh, let's put out the camera footage and the body cam footage, which is giving us more of saying like, hey, well, what we saw from this journalist or whoever, this is literally what we're seeing. But they're saying if we just do what they're doing, it shows that our, you know, our hands aren't dirty anymore. And I think that's the problem. It's this pattern that they're creating. You've seen it, we'll drop it, but who do you really want to believe? And it's to push out, it's to constantly make it look like journalists are lying. Journalists are there to flip the story. And it really, really sucks, because I've seen under even your post, people have commented under my comments under your post to say, you know, oh, it's actually, you think it's good that somebody came with a gun to, you know, to the protest, or you think, I think it's great that my president killed this. They're saying these things underneath these videos that are showing you clearly what happened. And so, how do journalists protect themselves in this time? If that could even be a question that's answered.
I think America has to protect journalists at this time. I've had so many conversations with people, and you know, at a time like this, I never want to center myself, but I did feel the need to make a post showing people I have been in media for 17 years.
Yeah.
This isn't, you know, and there's a lot of people who are stepping up and they're becoming citizen journalists in this moment. They're inspired, they're documenting, and there's a place for that. And also, when you see this strong attack on our free press, America's going to have to protect its journalists. Otherwise,
I agree.
if they could kill 300 journalists in Palestine, why won't they do it here? And the attack on the journalists hasn't been that severe yet, but we've seen a progression.
It's growing.
Thinking, okay, when Jimmy Kimmel got pulled off air, there was this huge, tremendous outrage. At that time, I did the story about Mario Gravera, who was an independent journalist like myself, who was in Atlanta, documenting the arrests that were happening there. They ended up arresting him. His attorney said he had a work visa to be here. He ended up being deported to El Salvador. So that didn't get any national attention until I, as another independent journalist, started doing stories about it, started reporting about it, right? And so we have to understand that media is a tool that is extremely powerful that we can all use, but we also have to start respecting professional journalists who are out here, who have been doing the work. And when we see whether it's federal agents, whether it's local municipalities that are infringing on the rights of journalists, we have to take it extremely seriously. This is part of the reason why I started being so outspoken back in November. On November 25th, there was an ICE raid on the east side of St. Paul where 3 journalists who were clearly identified as press were injured. One had to be taken by ambulance. And so for the first time ever, I stood at a podium during a press conference and I denounced this type of attack on the media, right? And you guys know I've criticized mainstream media every way to Sunday, okay?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to stand and be silent when they're attacked, because if they
I
can be
agree.
attacked and no one can do anything, I definitely will be attacked and no one will do anything. And so I started speaking out about that, because that wasn't even federal agencies that attacked those 3 journalists. That was our local law enforcement that attacked those 3 journalists during an ICE raid. And so who is here to protect us? Can we count on our local law enforcement? Can we count on our local officials? Well, we know where the federal government stands, but have we been totally abandoned? And that was one of, I think, the most profound speeches that I've heard in all of the coverage that I've done over the last 3 weeks was co-executive director Eli Darris of the Minnesota Freedom Fund. He said, just tell us if you're abandoning us. Tell us. Because the way that we're not seeing people who are elected, who have power and authority to do something, it's concerning. And it is, you can make the statements, you can go to the press conferences, you can use profanity, but if it's not being followed up with action, then what does it really mean? And so that is one of the reasons why I do keep pointing to what the Attorney General is doing. I keep pointing to what the Hennepin County Attorney, what they're doing, because it does appear as though they understand the limited power and authority that they do have. And it does appear as though they are trying to investigate and have said that they're willing to prosecute any injustices that they're able to prove.
And so, Georgia, let me ask this, because you're talking about the brazen behavior of ICE, and clearly that's what we're seeing. And then on top of that, you got these large protests. I mean, incredible protests. And I want you to comment on 2 things. One is, I think I saw this weekend what appeared to be a protest that stretched like blocks and blocks and blocks around the corner in this some huge area inside of Minneapolis. And so when you think about the statements, the comments that are, because we're so angry with ICE and we're shouting these things out to them, and this brazen behavior, given, and I want you to try to look, if you would try to explain, why do you think that in light of so many cameras on them, so many people upset with them, large protests everywhere, that they still just feel like it don't matter, we're going to do what we want to do, we'll continue this brazen behavior? Why do you think it is? Do you think it's a lack of training, or is it something else?
Who's going to stop them?
So could it be, is it safe to say that it's because the president, when you say who's going to stop them, what I hear is going back to Project 2025 and his own words, where this administration, including the vice president, has stated they get complete immunity. So, I mean, because for me, when I hear people say it's due to a lack of training, I don't think it's a lack of training. I think it's the seduction of power. And when the president, to your point, says to them, you can do whatever you want to do, because ain't nobody gonna stop you.
Is it a lack of training, or are they doing exactly what they were trained to do?
That's what I was going to get to. I think that so one, JD Vance did put out that they have immunity, walked it back a couple of days later and said, sometimes you got some basically bad murders, sometimes you got some good murders. Like, well, if they're bad ones, then we'll figure it out, we'll investigate, which clearly we're not seeing any of that due process at all. But they're doing what they've been trained to do. They're doing what they literally are told to do. That's why they're going to get away with all of this until something happens, which, I'm not sure, because this whole administration is making sure that they're putting ICE on the pedestal. They're making ICE they're giving them immunity right before our eyes. They're going out here and they're murdering people and nothing is happening. They're immediately making sure 5 minutes while that body is cold on the ground, they are getting out there, putting out statements to criminalize the person that was murdered, criminalize anybody who's putting out video about it, all of those things. They are doing this from official sites. They are taking time to make statements, to do press release. They're doing all of that as that body is laying out there just for a few minutes. They're putting more work into that to protect DHS. They're to protect the ICE officers. And even we're seeing there's a disconnect, which is interesting because we know that there is with police officers, with local law enforcement already, right? That we know there's issues with Black folks and brown folks with law enforcement historically. That's already a thing. But to see that even ICE is disconnecting from allowing law enforcement to be on the scene, DHS is taking full control with this administration when things like this happen. It's interesting to see because Black folks still got issues over on this side being murdered by police officers, and now we're seeing that with ICE on another level, and with them killing anybody and everybody who was against them or on the other side under the guise of it being protections from bad immigrants. So they are doing exactly what they have been told to do. We see them boasting on various videos saying about their salary, about their pay, right? About them all going to be able to get away with this. The first thing that they do is touch their guns. Some of them have tooted that they were at the Capitol, right? And now they're here. Now they're ICE officers. And on one of the shows that I did with the Leftist Mafia, there is a Reddit. The thread of a lot of people who are friends and family members of people who just became ICE agents or been ICE agents for the last year. And many of them talk about the lack of training that their family or friend had to do. It's literally a walk on. Literally, you just come on in, you know how to, shoot a gun. You don't have much training. We're telling you to just round up any immigrants or people who are against us, people who aren't allies, people who are anti-Trump. That's the rules. That's what it is. I do know someone personally who is not white, who had to go through a little bit more training. Their training included, since you are a product of immigrants, what would you do if we were to round up your family? Those were the questions that were being asked to that person.
Wait.
again,
Rebecca, you know somebody in ICE?
What'd you say, Ben?
You know somebody in ICE?
I knew somebody who wanted to go for ICE, and ICE denied them because they couldn't answer that question about their family being rounded up.
That's great.
Hey, Georgia, let me ask this question. It came out. Of course, we heard the demonstrative description that was laid by the administration against Renee Good, and then speaking of reporters bringing information, Trump's on this interview with CBS, and the reporter informs him that Renee Good's daddy was a big time Trump supporter. Now Trump walks that back saying, the most insensitive thing, which is, I hope that he's still a big fan of mine, despite the tragedy. And of course, the father speaks out at the loss of his baby girl. So how are folks taking that type of, as a journalist, how do you view that whole situation? The insensitive nature of it, this father having his daughter demonized and knowing that he supported this type of nonsense.
We have to depoliticize humanity.
Wow.
When did being human become political?
My wow.
I think that for me, as a parent, as a mother who has actually lost a child, part of the reason why I wanted to continue in my career of journalism is because in some ways we are first responders. There are so many experiences I've had interfacing with parents on the day that their child was killed. And so to not be that reporter that just shoves a camera and a microphone in their face to get a statement for the 5 o'clock news, but to be a human first and tell them, regardless of what the circumstance was, there is a way for God to use this. There is a way for God to use you through this, right? And to just give them some semblance of hope to get through. And so it's so hard for me to understand whether you're a journalist, whether you are a law enforcement member, whether you are an elected official, how you could show up in a conversation about a human being who is grappling with the loss of a child. Our children are supposed to bury us. And so when did our humanity become so politicized? Like there is nothing that is off grounds here. You know, there's no human decency for people who don't agree with you. I mean, it reminds me of when our elected official here, Melissa Hortman, was assassinated. And I don't even think that the flag was flown at half staff.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. Yeah.
And so these traditions that America had across party lines, the tradition to recognize one's humanity, the tradition to honor those who were in a position of service. These traditions are out the window, and what they're being replaced with is racist and violent rhetoric. And you know, that paired with the ongoing constitutional and civil violations that we are enduring, I think that is why we're seeing the response that we're seeing. We're seeing tens of thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people, are taking to the streets, taking a stand. We saw more than 100 members of clergy get arrested at the Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport. We saw the church protest. We've seen so many different demonstrations, protests at hotels where these ICE members are saying, I think the people of Minnesota, I think the people of this nation are growing desperate because our elected officials, our local law enforcement don't understand if they have any authority or any power to intervene and protect the people. And so the people are standing up. The statewide shutdown that we had here on Friday was the biggest strike that we've seen with the unions in more than several decades.
And George, you know, George, I think the other point that comes to mind is when you talk about these rules and these traditions that have always been in place. And if I was just take a parallel to that about DEI, the one criticism that they tried to use for diversity, equity, and inclusion is that it wasn't based on meritocracy. And see, what you're talking about is that there have been rules of law, the Constitution, that have established that things should happen on their merit. And what this administration is doing is saying, no, we want to change the rules again. This is why I will clearly say, when they speak against diversity, equity, and inclusion, when they constantly change the rules, when the First Amendment and the freedom of press no longer applies, this is America once again saying to us, to the whole world, we ain't never been about meritocracy. It ain't never been about your ability. It's only been about us as white men win.
Yeah. Georgia, if I could jump in here real quick, I want to two things I want to do, Rebecca, if you could spare me a moment. I want to read the statement from the Pretti family, if I can get it on this, the Pretti family, rather, if I can get it on the screen. There it is. And then I want to ask you a question, Georgia. We are heartbroken, but also very angry. Alex was a kind-hearted soul who cared deeply for his family and friends, and also the American veterans whom he cared for as an ICU nurse at the Minneapolis VA hospital. Alex wanted to make a difference in this world. Unfortunately, he will not be with us to see this impact. I do not throw around the hero term lightly. However, his last thoughts and act was to protect a woman. Come on. The sickening lies told about our son by the administration are reprehensible and disgusting. Alex is clearly not holding a gun when attacked by Trump's murdering and cowardly ICE thugs. He has his phone in his right hand, and his empty left hand is raised above his head while trying to protect the woman ICE just pushed down, all while being pepper sprayed. Please get the truth out about our son. He was a good man. Thank you. Georgia, I want to ask you because I've known you for many years, and we've seen transitions from the world before 2016, entirely different world than when you and I and Rebecca and all of us met back in 2020, and the world is entirely different than when we met in 2020. That said, I hear something in your voice that is a new level of clarity and precision and accuracy. When we ask you these questions, you're not just answering them to the fullest extent that they could be answered. You are as a professional journalist. But Georgia, I hear you understand the times. I hear that you understand the score. You understand the situation. You understand that this is a fight for our republic. You understand that this is a fight for decency. Um, and I'd like to hear you speak on that from the perspective of other people waking up to what times we are in. You are a very measured journalist. You are a professional. And I'll say it again, you're my homegirl. And I'm not just bragging on you because you're my homegirl, but because you do the work. You're an Emmy Award, a regional Emmy Award winning journalist. But you're sounding the alarm here. You're not just saying, you are saying, look at the facts. Yes, precisely, look at the facts. But after you look at the facts tell us this. And that this that I hear you alarming us about, it's a pretty big deal when you're talking about democracy, ain't we? Like we're talking about the whole ball game here. And I hear you have clarity there.
Yeah. What's happening in Minnesota should be a code red for this country. How do we justify, how do we renormalize after this, right? Like our constitutional rights have been violated, no consequence, nothing's being done. And so how do we get back to it being normal that when your rights are violated, there's a consequence for it? And the only way that we get back to that is if people say we're not going to tolerate this. It's not right. If an agent shoots a woman in the face in broad daylight, while they're supposed to be focused on immigration and she's a U.S. citizen, she's a white woman, that we're going to investigate and then make a determination, right? How do we get back to a point where if someone says that a person is armed, but they're not armed, and then they're shot multiple times in the back while they're on the ground with their face on the concrete, how do we get back to a point where that would actually be investigated before it's just declared that it's justified? Like, how do we get back to what our social contracts were, the things that we agreed were law and order? How do we get back to that when we're seeing federal agents who have jurisdiction across this whole country? This isn't a Minnesota issue. This isn't a Minnesota agency. This is a national agency that can come to a city near you.
Yes.
So if we're just going to stand by and just, okay, the first U.S. citizen wrongfully, unconstitutionally arrested, that's too bad. Oh, it's probably just a mistake. The second one, the third one, now we have a class action lawsuit. Now a woman is killed. Then a man is shot. And then now a man is killed. And let's talk about Alex Pretti. You're talking about an ICU nurse at the Veterans Hospital. I mean, this man, he's a model citizen.
That's right.
And so how do we justify, oh, well, he had a gun. Yeah, that's also a constitutional right. And so it is very difficult to stick to the facts when you keep telling people the facts and they act as though it's advocacy. They act as though, there's exceptions to there cannot be exceptions to our Constitution. Our Constitution is the bedrock of our democracy. And if we're saying that it's negotiable, then essentially we're saying that we're at a turning point in our country where we are ready to rewrite the rules.
That's right.
But what is being forced on us then is who gets to rewrite those rules.
That's right.
Meritocracy. There is none. You know, Georgia, I'm convinced that if Jesus was at that protest, you fill in the blank. If Jesus was at that protest,
they would have crucified him.
That part.
Georgia, so even in how you're discussing it now, I think even what Ben was trying to touch on, hey, you have been doing this for years. You're a journalist, and you even mentioned this earlier. There's a different level of professionalism on how you cover the stories, how you follow up with the stories, what angles you're trying to take. And this time it's like, I'm getting everything because the people do need to see, especially with this administration trying to rewrite what happened and put that out there as Bible. And so just hearing in you when you're talking right now, we know usually as journalists, we're trained to be unbiased, not to have any emotion or those things. And I would say the best thing I ever did was go independent as well, because I'm like, these stories, I can't say, like, just to imagine as you are covering it right now, and you to be over there in Minneapolis, and for you to be at the sites where these people were shot, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, lifeless bodies and people around you running in chaos or being a part of the protest and being shot at with gas and all the things. It's hard to be a journalist and not and be out there and not have a feeling. So right now, even when you're speaking, I feel like you're seeing this as somebody who lives there, as you said, as a mother, you know, not just a journalist, but in seeing this, right? We know we've watched these videos with police brutality, having to wake up and watch Philando Castile, all these, you know, watch these in the middle of the night because it's somebody videotaped it, and now we're watching this out on a live or something of that sort. Doing this all over again, but with ICE, and still haven't fully dealt with police brutality, and now adding ICE onto it and covering this. Is there a balance for you right now, or is it all like you're like, listen, they're getting everything, they're gonna get the coverage as a journalist, and whatever raw emotion goes out there, or is there some kind of balance for you?
Not much balance right now because I really believe we're at code red.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I have to do everything personally and everything professionally. And that's part of the reason why I'm using that language. Like what's happening in Minnesota has to be code red for our country. Think about this. The government could mandate a shutdown, right? The government could tell us during the pandemic, hey, it's not safe. You guys got to go home. When do we as responsible adults say what's happening right now is not safe for our children? It's not safe for our bodies. It's not safe for our countries. And when do we start to prioritize our own strategy, our own organization to do something, whether it's in resistance or in response or to a reply, like just anything. Otherwise, it's just people, they're going doing their 9 to 5s, people still going on vacations. You know, if this, let's just say, like, just use your imagination. If this starts happening at every city across the country, they're asking for voter rolls. We don't know why they want our voter rolls. They don't just want them just to like hang on their wall. They're going to do something with them. And so there is a clear strategy here that is moving us further and further and further away from our constitutional rights. It's because it's so normalized to have our constitutional rights violated. It's essentially basically our Constitution means nothing. Yep. There's no way to uphold or enforce our Constitution. And so it's like, yes, and even in that, in amplifying those facts, I think conservatives would say that is advocacy, but it's not. It's just the truth. And so if we're at a state where the truth is political, the truth is up for debate. I mean, people are trying to say maybe we're on the verge of a civil war. As a journalist, I don't necessarily think I can make that declaration. That would be up for experts to make that declaration. But a declaration I am confident to make is that we're certainly at in the middle of an information war. The way in which we consistently see video evidence, eyewitness testimony that contradicts statements that are made by officials, that is an information war. The way in which we're being told that our Constitution still means something, but every single day we're getting new cases of people's constitutional rights being violated and then nothing happens. I mean, we're certainly in the middle of an information war, if nothing else. And
Yeah.
so, Rebecca, I remember when we first connected and we talked about making that transition to being independent. And one of the things that I appreciate most about being an independent journalist is the freedom to examine the media as an industry. Back in the day, newspapers, it was common for newspapers to have media critics where they would criticize themselves. I mean, they've done away with that. And so I think it is the role of independent journalists to antagonize and pick apart, analyze the way in which mainstream media is showing up in this moment. And what I can't seem to wrap my head around is the fact that these mainstream media outlets are acting as though they have the experience and the authority to report on an authoritarian regime. And so going back to that press conference where I talked about the 3 journalists who were attacked by the St. Paul police, in that same press conference, I said, and to the media, I want to ask you, for those of you who went to J school, journalism school, what did they teach you about covering an authoritarian regime? And no one had an answer because it's not a part of journalism curriculum. There is no rule book on how to cover an authoritarian regime. So all of this, let's be objective and tell both sides. How can you tell both sides when you're covering an authoritarian regime? The old rules are out the window. They're gone. And so even the media, I mean, they're still cutting to the weather when our constitution is being dismantled. My plea to them was, how can you be neutral about the dismantling of our democracy and still expect to be protected by it? You want to sit here and show up and say, oh my God, they're shooting our journalists. This is a violation of our First Amendment Constitution right. But then when a U.S. citizen has their door knocked in, you're like, okay, well, we're not really sure why this person had their door knocked in. We're being told that they're a U.S. citizen. You want to sit here and act like it's okay for members of the community to have their constitutional rights violated over and over and over. But oh no, when your journalists are attacked, then it's, oh, the First Amendment. But the First Amendment, if it doesn't apply to everybody, it can't apply to you.
That's right.
If Alex Pretti can't exercise his constitutional right to have the legal right to bear arms, you can't have the legal right to the freedom of the press. And so that is the thing, is like, we cannot have selective outrage about our Constitution. We either have to stand up for our Constitution in its entirety
or tear it up
so that it can protect us. And so this is where I think the media plays a very critical role. I think that we are beyond a point of neutrality being a reasonable thing. I think neutrality in this moment is complicity. And I understand the desire to want to tell both sides, but at some point, the other side of the truth is a lie.
Yeah.
And if you're spreading lies, you're a part of the problem. Sometimes when you talk about the morality of something, the other side of right is just flat out wrong. And so who do you want to be? When we talk about being on the right side of history, who do you want to be? You want to be the person who sat here as like, a robot saying this is what was right and this was what was wrong. And so back to you. Here's the truth and here's a lie. Back to you. You figure it out for yourself. That's not helping anybody in this moment. And so I think that there is a deep reform that is needed in media. I think these media outlets need to break their format. I'm sorry, I don't really care about the traffic right now when U.S. citizens are having their doors kicked in, when 37-year-old mothers are being shot in the face and there's not even an investigation to find out if it's justified, where ICU nurses are being shot in their back in the middle of broad daylight. I'm sorry, I don't really care about the traffic right now. Do we have a constitution? Do we still have a country? Are we a free country? Do we still have civil liberties? Those are the things that I think that we should be prioritizing. We should be amplifying people who can answer those questions, who contextualize Are we on the brink of a civil war? And not just these YouTubers who are just saying inflammatory things for clickbait, but people who actually are studied from academia, who have experience, who are nonpartisan, who can really help unite our country and move us forward. Otherwise, quite frankly, I'm sorry, I don't think that we're going to be here to see what's on the other side of whatever their agenda is.
Yeah.
So Georgia, let
me
ask this. Again, when we talk about history, there was a prelude to the Civil War in 1854. That little thing called Bloody Kansas, where they were literally fighting over free land or free soil. So that was the prelude. It went from 1854 to 1861. Then the Civil War hit. But the point is that you talked about a code red, and I just want to ask if this is because when you placed a question in there so brilliantly about why are they asking for the voters roll and code red, if we're not paying attention to what's going on in Minnesota. Well, if we go back to California, we saw the beginning of this thing. Then we watched them roll into Texas on the whole political side to go for redistricting. Now they're coming into Minnesota. And so, yes, we're watching all of these constitutional privileges or rights, not privileges, rights being violated. But then you talked about that voters roll. And so from a solution standpoint, is it that they know what's really at stake here is that if they lose the midterms, it could be game over. But on the other hand, if they do win, if for whatever reason they get through the midterms, we are really, really in trouble. So when you talk about that whole code red thing and something we better be prepared for, do you even think in this moment of darkness that the outcome of the midterm election could be a solution? But it can only be a solution if we do not give, if for whatever reason the Democrats were to win it, all this nonsense of go along to get along, that nonsense has to stop for us. So, but is that a possibility of a solution to this problem, the midterms, from your perspective?
I'm concerned about the integrity of our elections. I think that there's evidence that is out there. I think that you could go back and look. There was some demonstrations that were done with different ballot boxes that have documented how some of the ballot boxes could be hacked. And some of that information is protected by whatever IP classification has been, whatever IP protections have been given to the technology itself. And so the midterms, I think, are almost kind of like a symptom or a byproduct to the bigger problem. And I'm not quite sure that it is fully the solution. And so I know that there has been a lot of organizing around making sure, that people are caucusing and people are voting. And I think people should do that if we survive to the midterms. If we're still here for the midterms, you should go vote. You should.
But the reason I'm asking it, Georgia, is because of what you said. They're asking for your voter
rolls. Yeah.
Here we see what they did in Texas. And now look at the law that they just passed that used to be mail-in ballots that the Democrats were so strong in. Now,
but here, let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this, and part of the reason why my response to your question is what it is. If they don't recognize a signed judicial order from a judge,
right?
If they don't care about your constitutional rights,
correct.
Why would they? Do you think the buck stops with fair elections?
Georgia.
But I hear that. But what I do understand is this. I also believe that if there is a semblance of hope in this situation, it better be that we better win that, and we better find a way.
Let me tell you where my hope is right now, Dr. Mack, and I want to know what Rebecca has to say. But I'll just say this quick before she jumps in. If you said a semblance of hope, I'm getting my hope from the Lord.
Amen.
Come on.
I think it is appalling
He did say
to me.
faith without works is dead.
There it is. That's true. That is true. But it is appalling to me how many people assume because I'm a biracial Black woman who unapologetically tells the stories of the Black community that ends up being at the crux of so many political issues. I emphasize on civil rights and constitutional violations and police brutality because these have been the issues of our time. That there is an assumption that somehow I am left wing, that I'm some, just radical Democrat supporter. The truth about Georgia Ford, I am extremely spiritual. I think it is very concerning for people to put so much faith in political parties, especially at a time when we're seeing moral corrosion on both sides of the aisle. We're seeing a lack of courage. We're seeing a lack of humanity. People just staying silent in the face of just indecency, right? And so for me, I have been honestly encouraging people to fast and pray.
Come on.
Because my faith is in God. As a Christian woman, I do believe that is where we're going to find more answers than in any worldly things or any fleshly things. There's just so much corruption. There's so much just indecency. Our humanity has been politicized. And so how can we put faith in the institutions that have gotten us to this point? How do we put faith in the elected officials?
I promise you, I hear that. And even though I'm a self-proclaimed Sunday school dropout, when I hear people say that I'm gonna put my faith in the Lord, they forget that other part about faith without works without
dead. I agree.
And so I know that
that's why you see me out here working every day.
Exactly.
I see you doing that work.
I'm working every day. I'm barely getting any sleep.
I'm without doubt that I can see your work. We all see that body of work. But I promise you this, as a Sunday school dropout, unapologetically, I say this. I've seen so many so-called Christians just sit there and say, I done prayed about it and don't do a damn thing to go work for it. And so again, that faith without, that works without faith, faith without works, dead. So somewhere, no doubt, as spiritual folks, we're going to put our faith in the Lord, no doubt, but it still has to be work. And I'm going to say this to you. When that Passover was coming, I done told Ben and the Queen, when that Passover comes, I need to be that angel with the sword. I got some work to do with that. Now, not that I'm advocating, but I'm advocating. You know what I'm saying? But somewhere we have to put that work in, and we have to look for a solution. I don't think God just gonna come down and say, okay, I know you all got faith in me, so let it be. Somewhere we got to get out there and do some work.
But
we have to understand the chess game that these fools are playing. And I think that you certainly alarmed me to it, of them asking for the voter rolls. You see what's going on around redistricting. You seeing what they're doing to stop the voting process. And I don't think that there's a panacea for this insatiable, inhumane disease that is going on. Somewhere we got to attack on all fronts. You from a journalist, somebody else from a historical perspective, somebody from a civil rights. The Queen, both of y'all is independent media of alarming and educating us on all fronts. We have to continue to put this work in. Then I believe that faith that we have for God is going to come to manifest itself.
And so the reason why I think even like Georgia's doing the work, right? We're out here doing the work, but also it's a people thing. We have to be we can't be in charge of what they're doing and how they're doing it. A lot of people are afraid that their votes don't matter because of what's been going on historically. A lot of people are afraid to go outside and protest. A lot of people are afraid that, with a lot of the things that people have done already, they're saying that we've protested. We've done some of the biggest protests in this nation. We've done all of these things, and this administration is still giving a big F you. So right now, what we can do, we can only do what we can do. I know earlier, Georgia, you were saying, like, even with the mayor, it has to be more than getting on the mic, cursing out folks. So what more, like, on that level? See, I know that you had your criticisms for the mayor, and I am too. We want somebody who's like, okay, that's real cute. Right? That's real nice. You can get on the mic, have a little, but what the people need this, the people need that, the people need more of this and protections, and for you to say it plainly with not these viral moments. So for you over there, even so with your leadership over there, what can they do better? You're down there on the ground. How can the people over there be protected more by leadership in Minneapolis?
Well, I think holding them accountable. You elected these people to represent you. And so whether you're calling or you're emailing, but we have to move beyond a place of just having conversations and seeing that these elected officials follow through with what they say that they're going to do. And I think this is where my tension is around the question that Dr. Mack has about the midterm elections. Is like I mean, it's a power struggle, you guys. So if we're seeing this play out in real time, and city, county, and state officials, what have they demonstrated on a local or on a national level that has allowed them to use their power or authority to intervene in anything that the federal government is doing? I haven't really seen anything that's been extremely effective. I know that there's dozens of lawsuits that have been filed by the Attorney General. We've seen restraining orders be requested, harassment orders be requested against the federal government. We've seen judicial orders be placed that basically just reinforce the law. Like a judge signed an order saying that you can't, that federal agents can't brutalize protesters and journalists. Well, isn't that the law? Why do we need a judicial order to reinforce what is already also the law? The law we need a judicial order. Like, so we're seeing elected officials do everything. So for the everyday person, I mean, I think people have to start to make their own decision. Yes, faith, like Dr. Mack, you said, faith without works is dead. So what is your work? What action are you willing to take to ensure that your constitutional rights are going to be here during the midterm election and after the midterm election? But I will just say, I think that for so long, we allowed elected officials to go in these press conferences when these tragedies happen, and they would say, "Oh, we're giving you our prayers." And so I think that it sounds cliche now, and that has become politicized and almost watered down. And so by no means am I over here trying to give, some rhetoric of like, okay, well, you guys, like, let's just go home and pray. But let me just say, no, from the pit of my soul, from the bottom of my soul, I believe in the power of prayer. Things. Y'all ain't never seen me go on no platform talking about fast and pray. Is that journalistically correct for me to say fast and pray? No, probably not. But that's why I'm an independent journalist. That's why I'm saying mainstream media needs to break the format. We're not in regular times. This isn't normal. It should be a code red for the country. And so if you are a believer, yes, prayer is one of the most powerful tools that you have. And it still works. And so I think that this nation needs divine intervention. And by no means am I saying fast and pray only, just go fast and pray and don't do anything. But I do think that it should be a fundamental aspect of what the Christian community is doing at this time.
And Dr. Mack, it's so crazy because you asked this question and probably 10 years ago when I first got into politics as a journalist, and I probably would have told you, this is what we need to do. We need to rally around. We need to check this. We need to do that. We need to talk to everybody in the community. I've done rallies for the immigrants. I've done all the things, right? So the thing is, when that question is asked, is like, how do journalists are doing their part, these people are doing their part, these people are doing their part. Then we have people who are on the opposite side combating that as well, on the opposite side combating that as well. This administration is very, very powerful in how they want to attack all these aspects to be that is supposed to show what's going on and get the people going and do these big rallies and protests and days where no one is purchasing anything or going to school and stuff. But the fear mongering seems to be working right now more than anything, and which is causing people not know what to do next, to feel like there isn't any hope, and to feel like they don't know what to do next. When, like from back home where my mother is, in South Florida, all them Haitians ain't going nowhere. They got here, they were going places, they were going to church, they were going to these schools, they were trying to, move forward. They were keeping their head down. They were working in the vacant lot that had all these businesses that ain't had nobody working. They brought that lot back to life. All those businesses came back to life because of those immigrants. Now they aren't going to work. They aren't doing anything. The fear mongering is working. They're even moving away from the city because they're afraid. You have people who want to go and protest, but are afraid that they're not going to make it back home. So they're, it's so much that people want to do, I'm pretty sure. But there's also all this fear mongering. People don't know what to do next. A friend of mine said that he went out and got his neighborhood whistles just to for them to be able to, identify or let the neighbor know when ICE is approaching. And that's a small task, but it's something that they're able to do. I would love for us to have some kind of answer, but right now it's one of those things where it's like we don't have a clear answer. I would love for everybody to be able to get together, run up on ICE, or do the things, like do those things. I would love for our law to really work where ICE can't be breaking the law and getting away with it. I would love for us to get in that time, but it's like people do feel hopeless right now. So in these type of moments, it's kind of like, Lord, like for me, and I don't like watching the videos. I get online and they're there. They're there. I'm watching them sometimes in real time. I didn't like watching it for Charlie Kirk, whom we do not like none of that man's politics. Didn't like none of that man's politics. What he preached, those folks that are ICE agents probably believe a lot in what Charlie Kirk went off of. But I didn't like that we have to see those things. But we're seeing these things because, like you said, Georgia, we are not living in normal times. These people are allowing all these things to be okay. Watching somebody be murdered and for them to be able to do it again in a few days. And what is really mind-boggling is when they did it to Renee Good. That was the only reason why we found out about Keith Porter, right? And that was because it wasn't on it wasn't, no one videotaped it. We weren't able to see it anywhere. It was just an ICE officer who was off duty, and to me, an ICE officer who was off duty is still an ICE agent. They're still an ICE agent at the end of the day.
That's right.
It had the protections of an ICE agent. And so but I said to myself, this is not going to be the last murder. There's going to be one soon. And soon enough there were. And between Renee and Alex, they were shooting other people, right? People were being shot, and those things are just being covered as, oh, this person used their car as a weapon on ICE, or all of this other stuff. They're telling us not to believe what we're seeing. But again, all of this being said, we are not in normal time. So the way that we're covering this stuff, it has to be extreme, or the way that we're going about it. The last thing for the hopeless is to put your hope in something. If you don't believe in God, put it in something. Like we have to, I think that having faith that something can change, right? I think that will help us get to the next side of it. Because for me, like I said, I wanted to give up on this long ago. I'm like, I can't take it. I can't take it. I'm covering this part. Understanding. People are in the comments telling me I'm putting out information to make people afraid of this administration or whatever. And now look where we are. And I'm like, nah, I got to keep on doing this work. But the only thing that's having me do this work, like Georgia said, is my faith. Which is making me get up to go the next day. But also in doing it every day, I'm getting something new. Like, all right, Rebecca, this is how you're going to do it. You can't just do it the same way. You can't just cover it on an unbiased basis. You got to cover these in-betweens if they're not touching on purpose. You got to go in the crevices and let people know that this is the plan. Like, this is what's going on. This is what it looks like. And I think that's what we're just going to have to do. Keep our hope alive so that God can give us the strategy as we move forward.
Well, Queens, let me say this to both of you all. I would clearly give both of you the Mary Ann Shadd Carey Award and the Ida B. Wells Award as legacy members of Sisters in Journalism, without question. But I gotta bring it. There's nothing inside of me that won't allow me to bring this historical perspective. Queen, you said we ain't in normal times. Well, I'll push back a little bit and say no, but we're in common times. What do you think Frederick Douglass was thinking when them Confederates fired or something? And it looked like America was about to tear itself apart. Frederick had to sit there and smile because he knew that this was the war that was going to end the bondage of our folks. So when I see these fools in ICE doing what they're doing, there's nothing new to us as Black folks about what they've been doing. We've been seeing this now. White America is getting a whole dose of this thing. But again, what Malcolm said to us And where I am in hope on this, because Malcolm said, of all of our studies, history is best qualified to reward all research. When you find that you have a problem, study the historical methods of people with problems like yours. When you know how they solve theirs, you know how to solve yours. Now, I'm just going to go inside my own little history. Life member of the Seattle NAACP, been away from Seattle for a while, had this young sister to come to me and say, Dr. Mack, can you give me your endorsement to run for president? I ain't really want to do it. However, there was an administration that was in place that was foul and eating off the backs of our people. So I endorsed this young sister. And I remember helping her to win the presidency. But I said this to her in a very stern way. I said, if you take your monkey butt up in there and you start screwing over our people on the backs of the NAACP, as God is my witness, I will come after you. She did it. I came after her. So what is my lesson here? Is that, yes, I'm going to keep that faith. We all keep that faith. I don't disagree with any of you on that. But there needs to be a new way of doing things when it comes to politics. So when we elect these officials, Hakeem Jeffries, for example, Schumer, for example, when you got your head up Israel's ass, go get them. Give them one term and go get them. If we educate our folks more with what you all are doing, there's just a new way that we got to do things. But we also got to build on those old things, because trust me, times have been a lot harder for Black folks than even they are now in these darker times. Right. We found a better way. We were the ones that said when they wrote in that Declaration of Independence to form a more perfect union, we're the ones that's been helping America to form a more perfect union. And we don't give up now. Not that either of you are saying that. So I'm clearly embracing the faith of it. But trust and believe, sisters, there is so much inside of our history that lays out a very beautiful blueprint. Even since we brought up Dr. King, go back to Dr. King's Testament of Hope in that speech when he said, there is going to come a day. He said, and I'm not even going to be upset, because these Negroes are going to bring a desirable, intimate, fervent protest against police brutality. And that is what we're seeing. This blueprint lies in our history. So going forward in this thing, do I think that we have to put these officials in place? But what we can't do is what we've always done. We go out there, we do our part to elect them, and then somehow they forget about shit. No, 2 days is over. I don't care who they are. The mayor of Minneapolis, yeah, brother, I do appreciate you telling them to get the fuck out. But if you don't do right, we'll get you the fuck out. And everybody else will get them the fuck out.
That's it. Listen, let me jump. Let me jump in real quick, because we only have a few minutes. We only have a few minutes before the end of the hour, and we want to get everyone out to the rest of their day. When you all start talking about God and faith and everything else, I was just sitting back. I was sitting back with my popcorn like this. I'm just munching on it, because every day, I realize how big the literal fight is. Democracy is on the line. We got to do something, and we got to be willing to go all the way, because they've demonstrated that they've gone all the way. But Georgia, I can't approach these times outside of my faith. I can't. This thing is so crazy that I have to lean on the Lord. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Certainly not MAGA. Certainly not some Nazis. Certainly not ICE. Okay, that. And then I wanted to make sure, I want to clear up something that we haven't addressed, but people need to be aware of this. ICE has no policing authority over citizens. The legislation, the statutes that create ICE make it clear what we can and cannot do. ICE cannot enforce immigration law against citizens. They don't have that power over us. They cannot demand proof of citizenship from us. We are citizens. Arrest for silence or refusal. They can't arrest you for being silent. They cannot arrest you for disrespect. They cannot treat non-compliance as resisting. We have the right to resist. We saw these in documents that were released by ICE themselves. They know in their own documentation that they do not have policing authority over American citizens, only over immigrants. And so what we're doing is authorized by law, and we absolutely have to keep doing it. That's it. I just want to make sure we made that reminder. Rebecca, we're at the top of the hour, but I know you want to wrap it up. And Georgia, I want to say thank you for coming on, and God bless you.
Yes, Georgia.
Everything that you're doing.
Thank you
It's
for
great.
having me back on. It felt like a family reunion. I missed
Okay.
out.
Look,
and
only
Georgia,
one
you
that's
have
missing
any-
is oh my Dwayne.
Well, that's Dwayne.
Dwayne.
Oh, David.
We're just missing
And David.
David and Dwayne. Yep.
What a
Yeah.
time! What a time!
You about to say,
that was-
Georgia?
Listen, we're at unprecedented times right now. But like you said, you did make really great points. Both Georgia, Dr. Mac, Ben, everybody. I hope that everybody who's watching was able to be updated, get updated. Georgia Fort is on the ground right now doing the work. And she's been there from day one. Follow her. Where can they follow you? How can they follow up with you to see what's going on in Minneapolis and everything that you're doing as well, Georgia?
I am on all social platforms as Georgia Fort, or you can head over to my website, georgiafort.com.
Love that. And what about you, Dr. Mac? They ain't seen you in a minute. How they can
They
find
ain't gonna
you?
see
And
me.
what
All
you
the
got
way
going
you see
on?
me, they don't like it or not. When the Queen and Ben called me and DJ called me and Georgia calls me. If the call don't come from one of y'all, damn it, you can't see me. How about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, I loved it today. Thank you so much, Georgia. There were so many questions that I not only had. If I had them, I know a lot of other people had them because so much misinformation is going around. But your coverage has been wall to wall, and so we're praying for you, girl. You know, and we'll be following you on your coverage as well.
Queen, let me say this one thing, Georgia. You know I did the all women's calendar. I promise you, and Queen, if for whatever reason I do a revision, I promise you, y'all gonna be in this thing.
Let's go.
Y'all gonna be in here. I'm so proud of the two of you. God bless you. I'm so proud
Thank
of
you.
Thank you,
Yes,
Dr. Mac. Thank you, Dr. Mac. All right, you
All
guys.
hearts and minds are clear.
All right, all hearts and minds are clear, Ben.
Before y'all get out of here real quick, let me tell everybody, shout out to all the MAGA and the ICE supporters in the chat that have helped boost our numbers and
Yes.
go to y'all algorithm. So we appreciate y'all. And trust me, if y'all wanted to deport blacks next, we'll go back because y'all country will be so effed up. We'll gladly go back.
Damn, you
We
better
tried to go back. We ain't even asked to be here.
pack a lunch when you come over here trying to talk
Okay,
about deportation.
come on now, please.
We have built
Get out
this
of here.
nation. We ain't going nowhere. We get your white ass up out of here, MAGA. Bring that on, fam.
You back to your colony in Europe, where you came from.
And they don't even know.
Georgia, you and Queen, y'all step aside. Bring your punk ass on, MAGA. We ain't worry about that, fam.
Look. Hey, look, Rebecca and Georgia, I believe they could throw some hands. Listen, real quick.
No, most
Hey, don't
definitely.
never get it twisted. This girl from South Florida and she Asian. So
Hello?
don't play.
Don't
play.
You know my husband owns a boxing club.
That part. Her husband is a prize-winning boxer. Come on, somebody.
Okay, and Dr. Mac built like a damn, tank already. So
No, Dr. Mac built like he worked for the CIA. I know he does not work for the CIA, but he built like an assassin.
Hey, look, all I'm asking is when you come over, don't bring your sheet. Just come on out here naturally. Let's everybody see who we're dealing with right here.
Oh man, listen real quick. I know we gotta go. Schism, thank you for the $20 super chat. Max left Q, thank you for the $5 super chat. The Doc Sanchez FMF went through several super chats. Thank you for each of them. Sent 3 super chats, actually more. Ben Riley, thank you for the super chat. Doc Sanchez sent 2 more. Doc Sanchez is out here in the game. Shout out to Ben Riley, sent another one. Schism became a new member of your channel, Rebecca. Shout out to Schism. Ben Riley again sent another $5. And all this is going to your channel, Rebecca. God bless
As it
you.
should.
And Sheila Bletson, thank you for the super chat. That's everybody. Rebecca, it's in your hands.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for everybody who's supporting. Listen, support everybody that you see on the show right now. You guys, listen, support independent media. We're out here doing what we need to do when the media isn't. All right. We're going in the in-betweens and the crevices, and we're having the conversations, nuanced one with the experts. So please be sure to support everybody that you see here now. Listen, I will see you guys on the next special edition of Like It or Not. Hopefully we have more Georgia Fort. Georgia, they also want you on my other show, which is Leftist Mafia. We'll talk about that. I'll reach out to you if you're available for that as well. All right, y'all. I love you. Mean it. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Deuces, y'all.
Let me bring you up, ZJ, so you can play something on our way out. All right, y'all.
We thank y'all so much again, y'all, for joining in and tuning in today on this special edition of Like It or Not, man. Hey, please, if you have not already, please share, like, subscribe, and all that other good stuff, man, to each and every one of our channels, man. We love you, mean it. I'll see y'all Thursday Beard Burner Chronicles. It should be going down, man. Love y'all, mean it. We'll see y'all soon.
Ten Hail Marys, I meditate for practice. Channel 9 News tell me I'm moving backwards. 8 blacks left, death is around the corner. 7 misleading statements by my persona. 6 headlights waving in my direction. Come on. 5-0 asking me what's in my possession. Yeah, I keep running, jumping the aqueducts, fire hydrants and hazardous smoke alarms on the back of us. But mama, don't cry for me, rap for me, try for me, live for me, breathe for me, sing for me. Honestly, guiding me, I can be more than I gotta be. Stole from me, lied to me, nation hypocrisy, code on me, driving me wicked. My spirit inspired me like yeah. Open correctional gates in high desert. Yeah. Open our mind as we cast away oppression. Open the streets and watch our beliefs. And when they carve my name inside the concrete, I pray it forever reads.
Freedom, freedom, I can't move. Freedom, cut me loose. Yeah. Freedom, freedom, where are you? 'Cause I need freedom too. I break chains all by myself. Won't let my freedom rot in hell. Hey, I'ma keep on running 'cause the winner don't quit on themselves. What you want from me? Is it true? You see, Father, get in there. What you want from me? Is it true? You see, Father, get in there. Get in there.
Love y'all, mean it, man. I'll see y'all on Thursday. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. Like it or not, it's about to go down. Love y'all. Peace. Peace. Ain't talking today.
Work that we're doing here is not going to stop when it comes to these type of discussions. It's going to be for us and by us here on this platform when the media is telling us to look the other way. Your support is what helps us move forward. Join patreon.com/like it or not. Help us grow.
Like it or not, y'all. Y'all know what time it is. It's time for like it or not. We're back to Azor. Let's start this damn show. Yes, it's time for like it or not. We're back to Azor. Let's start this damn show like it or not. Rebecca Azor is in the house. You know she got a funny story to tell. Talking politics, culture, or real life ish. I live in life in the ATL. Benjamin.